What would you do if a stranger in a lab coat told you to hurt someone? Not by accident, not in anger, but step by step, calmly. And they said it was necessary. Would you refuse, or would you continue? Part 1. How it started. In the early 1960s, the world was still trying to understand something deeply disturbing. How could ordinary people take part in terrible acts during war? Were they cruel by nature, or simply following orders? A young psychologist at Yale University wanted answers. His name was Stanley Milgram. Milgram was not interested in extreme individuals. He wanted to study normal people, office workers, teachers, salesmen, people like you. He designed an experiment, simple on the surface, but with a hidden purpose. Volunteers were told they were helping in a study about memory and learning. When they arrived, they met another participant, friendly, calm, ordinary. But this second participant was not real. He was an actor. The true subject was always the volunteer. The setup was careful, convincing, professional. The volunteer would play the role of teacher. The actor would be the learner. The task sounded harmless. The teacher would read word pairs. If the learner made a mistake, the teacher would give an electric shock. At first it seemed mild, just a small correction. But with every mistake, the shock level increased. 15 volts, 30, 45. The machine had labels: moderate shock, strong shock, danger, severe shock. The teacher sat in front of the machine. The learner sat in another room, unseen, and standing nearby, a man in a grey lab coat, calm, silent, watching. The authority, what the volunteers did not know. There were no real shocks, but everything else felt real. And soon, the experiment would ask a question far more serious than memory. How far will a person go when told to obey? Part 2. The event. At first, the volunteers followed instructions easily. A mistake, a small shock, no problem. But then the learner began to react. A slight complaint at 75 volts. A louder protest at 120. By 150 volts, the learner demanded to be released. His voice carried through the wall. "I don't want to continue." The room changed. The teacher hesitated. Many turned to the man in the lab coat. They asked the same question in different ways. "Should I continue?" The answer was always calm, precise. "Please continue." The experiment requires that you go on. It is absolutely essential. No anger, no force, just authority. And something surprising happened. Most people obeyed. They pressed the switches, again and again. At 300 volts, the learner pounded on the wall. Then silence. No more answers, no more voice. Only the machine. And the next switch. Some volunteers were clearly distressed. They laughed nervously. They sweated. Their hands shook. One man covered his face as he continued. Another whispered apologies while pressing the button. They knew something was wrong, but they kept going. Why? Because the man in the lab coat took responsibility. He said the experiment was safe. He said it must continue. And many believed him. Out of the original group, a large number went all the way to the highest level, 450 volts, the final switch. Even when they thought they might be seriously harming another person. Even when they heard nothing in return. The experiment revealed something uncomfortable. Obedience can be stronger than conscience. But what happened after the experiment ended was just as important. Part 3. How it ended, consequences. When the sessions finished, the truth was revealed. The shocks were not real. The learner was safe. For many volunteers, this brought relief, but also confusion. They had believed they were hurting someone. Some thought they might have caused serious harm. And yet, they continued. Milgram collected the results. Carefully, systematically. He found that a majority of participants obeyed the authority figure to the very end. This shocked the scientific world and the public because it challenged a comforting idea that only certain people could commit harmful acts. Instead, the experiment suggested something else. Under pressure, in the presence of authority, ordinary people might do the same. The study quickly became famous, but also controversial. Many critics argued that it went too far, that the emotional stress on participants was too high. Ethics in psychological research began to change. New rules were created, stronger protections for participants. Today, experiments like this would be heavily restricted, yet the impact of Milgram's work remains. It influenced how we understand obedience, authority, and human behavior in systems like the military, workplaces, and governments. It forced people to ask a difficult question, not who are the bad people, but what situations make good people act in harmful ways. Part 4. Meaning, Takeaway. The Milgram experiment is not just about the past. It is about a quiet force that still exists today. Authority. It shapes decisions. It guides actions. Sometimes, it silences doubt. But the experiment also leaves us with a choice: to follow or to question. Because in the end, the most important voice is not the one giving orders. It is the one inside you, asking whether those orders are right.